welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we are going to be taking a look at some more decks from some recent online tournaments. Of course, we have the Deck Out Mondays and 2 of the late nights that went down yesterday. Of course, these online tournaments are very important right now as it kind of shows what the meta is looking like as we head into the World Championships in just a couple of weeks. So it's pretty important to see what decks are being played, what lists are being used, and how the meta is kind of evolving in our current format right now. If y'all are going to go on to enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new to the second channel, make sure to click that subscribe button down below, and let's take a look here at the decks from these tournaments. So we can take a look at the Deck Out Monday tournament first. We got the winner was Fusion Mew taking down the tournament. Fusion Mew definitely seems like an anomaly right now because it does seem like a good deck. It's just the popularity of Spiritomb ultimately is what is going to hurt this deck. This list is pretty kind of techie. We got Cleansing Gloves, we have 2 Judge and 1 Iono. The double Judge is very interesting of a supporter, but Judge is not a bad supporter. I mean, it is a good hand disruptor, and at the same time, it isn't a bad card to play within Mew when you have Genesect. 2 Lost City, 1 Path. Pretty, straightforward Fusion Mew list. I mean, we can take a look here at what was below it. We see Single Strike, Lugia below it, without obviously playing any copies of Spiritomb. Fusion Mew can definitely take down Lugia. But yeah, this is a very interesting Lugia list. There's a lot going on in here. First thing, we do have the Urshifu Tyranitar package, so playing both the T-Tar and the Urshifu in the deck. The Urshifu VMAX obviously being really good against stuff like Flying Pikachu and Duraludon VMAX, but also we see there is a Snorlax in the deck, which is a card I've seen pop up in Single Strike Lugia. Well, Snorlax Lugia was like its own archetype. It's been kind of found out that that archetype just isn't very good compared to the Single Strike build of Lugia. But Snorlax is something that is good right now in our format because Snorlax is very strong against Giratina VSTAR, and Giratina VSTAR is very popular right now in our format. In fact, a lot of people believe Giratina VSTAR might be the best deck right now in our current format. So the Snorlax can be a really good attacker against Giratina. And then there's a Squawkabilly in the deck, mainly just there to try to get as much turn 1 discard as you can to try to discard some Archeops turn 1. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not I like Squawkabilly and Lugia, because the problem with Squawk is sometimes you'll discard extra urns and energies, and I don't know. I'm not sold on it, but it did work for this person. We see in top 4, we see a Lost Tina. Yeah, Lost Tina is not only starting to, dominate the tourney scene, the online tourney scene, but now it is actually starting to do really well in League Cups. I mean, a lot of posts on Twitter this past week have been people winning League Cups with Lost Tina, and Lost Tina does seem to be an actual legit deck right now in our format. That is what people are really thinking about. And I think the deck is really good. I think it has a really good matchup spread across most of the meta. The one thing that sells me on Giratina is it just has a very easy matchup against Arceus decks. I think Arceus, other than Arctina, and even then it's not a 50, it's not guaranteed, you're 50-50 at most. Lost Tina just farms Arceus decks because Tina is just really good. Arceus doesn't really have a way to 1-hit KO it a lot of the time. You have the ability to insta-KO Duraludons and Umbreons and Pikachu VMAXs, which makes Giratina a big threat in the format right now. And with the Iono Path combo and Roxanne Path, the deck actually has a lot of comeback potential. I think the deck is actually really good. Whether or not it's a meme or not is kind of decided, because in top 4 we have yet another Lost Tina. This build is a bit different. The other build we just looked at was using Cross Switcher. This one does not play Cross Switcher. But yet again, we see another Lost Tina deck in top 4. And it seems that Lost Tina is on a run. And we see 2 Xianpao decks back-to-back here. We see a Palkia Xianpao deck doing pretty well. And then below that, we see an Arceus Xianpao deck. So I think the Arceus build might be the better way to play it, because Arceus gives you Starbirth, and Starbirth does let you pull off really crazy Greninja plays. One thing that makes Xianpao so good is that it has access to Greninja and Xianpao, so you have like 2 really strong attacks at your disposal. Greninja can only be good though if you're able to use Canceling Clone, and with Arceus V-Star, it's obviously easy to do, because you can Starbirth for the 2 pieces you need and then Pokestop. And then in top 8, we see another Single Strike Lugia. Once again, very similar to the other build we looked at with Squawkabilly, Urshifu, and Snorlax. A very teched out build here of the Lugia deck. But the Snorlax definitely, I think, is really strong right now against most decks. It's good against Lost Zone decks, and it can be good against Arceus too. And yeah, I kind of like it. I don't hate it. Yeah, Lugia is still doing pretty well, because rounding out the top 8 is the first Arceus deck. We see this Arceus Pikachu Umbreon Lucario deck. Now, this is a deck that's actually been doing pretty well in a couple of online tourneys, not just this one tourney. I've seen this deck pop up a few times. We might have actually looked at it in the last episode last week. But yeah, the whole point of this deck is you have sort of just like a counterbox style deck. You have the Umbreon for the Gust, the Dark typing, then you have the Lucario. Lucario is specifically here for the Arc matches, right? It's really good against Arceus because you can 1-KO Arceus V-Star with Lucario. Lucario can also one-shot other basic V Pokemon with like a Choice Belt and a Double Turbo, or without a Double Turbo, if you just have like basic energy on it, it can do enough to one-shot a lot of things. And the Flying Pikachu obviously is really good against Xianpao and Lugia sometimes. It's just good against a variety of decks. But this Arc Pile deck is pretty cool. I don't know how good this one is, whether or not it's a meme or not is up to you to decide. But the Lucario Pikachu package does seem to be pretty decent with Arceus, and I definitely don't hate this build of Arceus. It did get top 8, and this is not the first time we've seen it. But we got another Arceus deck here in 9th place. It is Arc Rayquaza. So this is a deck that I've been eyeing up recently, maybe for a video. But the idea behind this deck is it is Arceus Rayquaza. Arceus, well, Rayquaza we've tried to make work before. Arceus just seems to be the best way to play it because literally you can just Trini Nova to a Rayquaza and build it up very quickly. But the other kind of part of this deck is the Armor Rouge Magma Basin combo. So while you're building up the Rayquaza with Arceus, you also have Armor Rouge, which can move Fire Energy from your bench to a Rayquaza. So the idea of this deck is you're not utilizing the Lightning Energy like you do with Flaffy Rayquaza. You're trying to abuse the Fire Energy side of his attack. You can go either way. You can either use Lightning or Fire for the discard. Doesn't matter. This build focuses on the Fire package, but you do get some more extra Fire power with Delphox and Charizard, which is the selling point of this deck. And it did almost get top 8, which is cool. I'm not sure if the deck is actually good or not, but it seems to be decent, and it seems to be winning games, and it almost got top 8. We got another Arc deck here. This is an Arceus Pikachu Umbreon deck. Very much just Arc Pika Umbreon. No other crazy shenanigans. No Medicham, no Slaking, no Lucario V-Star. Nothing, just Pikachu and Umbreon being your only 2 other attackers aside from Arceus. But it seems like a pretty straightforward list, and I like it. I mean, it's very straightforward. Pikachu is strong. My only kind of thing I don't like about this deck is its damage output seems kind of miserable. Really, the most damage you're going to do is 230. So that's something I do not like about this deck is its damage output is not there. Like if I'm playing against Arc Tina or Arc Rayquaza or, Lost Tina, how am I beating that? Because how are you beating those decks when you're 2-hit killing them and they're 1-hit killing you? So that's the only thing I don't like is there's no V-Guard energy in here. But hey, it almost got top 8, so definitely did something right. We see Goodra here. So Lost Goodra's been making a bit of a comeback in some of the League Cups and tourneys. I think the thing with Lost Goodra is it's actually kind of positioned in the meta right now well positioned in the meta. I kind of messed the phrasing up there. And the reason behind Goodra being good is because it actually has a good Gardevoir matchup now that we can play Sableye. The Zamazenta is pretty good. And it's also good against Lost Tina. So they do have the ability to insta-KO one Goodra, but because you have Sableye and Goodra, Tina can struggle against Goodra sometimes, and Goodra can also be good against Arc Piles. And in fact, Goodra is really good against Arc Piles that are not Duraludon, because Goodra cannot be 1-hit KO'd a lot of the time by most Arc decks, and they have to 2-hit KO you, and when you have Moisture Star, it's just not good for Arc decks. So this is also a really good anti-Arceus card. But it doesn't seem to be terrible against Lost Tina. And Gardevoir was kind of the only thing that made... I think Gardevoir and Lugia specifically were the 2 decks that... And I guess Arcdura were the 2... Like, the decks that made Goodra kind of fall in stonks. But I feel like now, with the meta the way it is, it's actually safe to play Goodra again. So yeah, I like it. Lost Goodra doing well. Interesting to see. We see another Lost Tina deck do well. Again, Lost Tina is just a bonkers deck, potentially. So we'll see where that goes. We do see this interesting Palkia deck. So this Palkia deck's been kind of popping up here and there. So it is a Palkia Xianpao deck. So the idea behind this deck is you're not playing Baxcalibur. You're not even really attacking with Xianpao a lot of the time. You're just using Palkia V-Star as your main attacker. The idea behind the deck is you're abusing Xianpao's ability to get you Water Energy for Greninja, for Ultra Ball, for Star Portal. Just being able to get 2 waters out of your deck for free with Xianpao is the goal of this deck. And it also still has access to Cologne Cross Switcher, Greninja play, so it's still very much a really aggressive deck, and it might not be as... I don't know if it's as good as Xianpao. I mean, I don't think it is as good as Xianpao, because it feels like Xianpao Baxcalibur will always have better results in this deck. But it doesn't seem like a bad alternative either, right? It doesn't seem bad. It's not as, slow, potentially. Like, you don't have to set up a stage 2. You just set up stage 1s that do a lot of damage, and you still have Clone Cross Switcher plays. You'd have the Star Portal to Greninja, though, which is maybe the only thing that hinders this deck. But I do like it, and I think this deck has a lot of potential. We see another Lost Tina here in top 16. No surprise to anyone. Lost Tina just farming. We see an Arc Tina here. So Arc Tina starting to make a comeback. This is, I feel like, the only Arceus deck that maybe has a decent chance at beating Lost Tina, and that's Arc Tina. The reason why I think this deck has a decent chance of beating Arc Tina or Lost Tina is because, one, you have Hand Disruption plus Path, which is really good against Lost Zone Engine decks, even Tina. And you can 1-hit KO their Tina with your Tina. So this is, in my opinion, the only Arc deck that 50-50 is Lost Tina. Every other Arc deck, in my opinion, doesn't have a good shot at beating Lost Tina because Star Requiem and Lost Impact are really powerful. So I think this is maybe the only good anti-Arc or Lost Tina deck is Arc Tina. The problem with Arc Tina, though, it's kind of just an inconsistent deck in total. I would say it's the. I would argue this is the least consistent Arc deck because, like, at the same time, like, while you are playing a Bibarel engine, you have a draw engine, you're less, prone to Ionos. You don't have Luminion. A lot of your draw is relying on, 3 judges to bail you out. Like, it just doesn't seem as consistent as the other Arc decks, right? But if the deck works, it's pretty good. And I think it actually beats other Arc decks, too. And then in top 16, we got another Arc Tina deck. 2 different builds. One of them had a little bit more text. This one is a bit more straightforward. Judge, Iono, 1 research. So I think Arc Tina is a pretty fair deck right now in our meta. In the late night, 119 here. And look at the winner. The winner was, of course, Lost Tina. To no one's surprise, Lost Tina making rounds. This list is interesting. It doesn't play a Roxanne. Actually, it plays 2 copies of Clara, which is very, very odd. So Clara is really good because you can get back Pokemon for your discard pile like Sableye. I've seen some people in, Lost Tina debate whether or not you even want to play Clara because it's still a decent card. But the Hand Disruption play is also good. So cutting the Roxanne for the Claras is interesting. Also, only playing 1 boss seems kind of... I'm not too keen on 1 boss. There's no cross switcher in here, so. But Lost Tina winning, obviously, no one's surprised. We see Gardevoir. This is actually, we didn't see a single Gardevoir in that other tournament there, the Deck Out tournament. But we see it here in the late night. Guardy doing well. Guardy does have an okay matchup against Lost Tina, mainly because you can, play aggressively, try to knock out those Giratinas before they evolve. Sableye is like the only concern with that matchup. But in my opinion, playing against Lost Tina is like playing against a worse Turbo Lost Box deck when you're playing Gardevoir. If you play well and proper, you should be fine because all you have to play around is a lot of the time the Sableye. And yeah, Giratina can like Star Requiem, Lost Impact your Gardevoir, but if Giratina is not like constantly just drawing the nuts, Gardevoir a lot of the time I feel like can still overpower Lost Tina. So I still think Gardevoir is better than Lost Tina, and a lot of the time you're playing against a worse Turbo Lost Box deck. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it because they're not going to Sableye you turn 2 like Turbo Lost Box can. We see Fusion Mew here in top 4. Again, Fusion Mew playing at the 1 Judge, 1 Iono, the 1 Path. And then, of course, we see another Fusion Mew here in top 4. Back-to-back top 4 placements are Fusion Mew. This one plays at Crystal Cave to try to counter Sableye, which is smart. Another Stadium isn't even bad either. Just having more outs to Path seems pretty good. And Crystal Cave isn't terrible because, again, being able to heal Genesect is not a bad idea. We see another Guardian top 8. Again, Gardevoir just being a good deck still. I still think Gardevoir is like the best. Like, I don't think Lost Tina's the best deck. Well, Lost Tina does seem to be maybe the second best deck. I still think Gardevoir is the best deck. Like, if your deck is still not beating Gardevoir, what are you doing? You know what I mean? There's a reason why Arc is still playing Umbreon right now. We see Lugia, Single Strike Lugia. Now, this Single Strike Lugia build does not play Urshifu. Now, this is kind of the way I look at Lugia right now is like, if you're going to play Lugia, I don't know if you would want to respect the Duraludon right now, right? You don't play the Urshifu because you don't need to respect Dura. There's not much Dura right now. The problem with Dura's been kind of on the downswing recently, mainly because of Lost Tina getting popular. But I also feel like that Duraludon isn't worth teching for right now. And that's why, if I'm going to play Lugia, I personally would not play the Urshifu. And the downside of that is you are a little bit more prone to, like, Flying Pikachu VMAX, which can be a bit more of a problem for you. Because you're forced... I mean, if you're playing against Flying Pikachu, though, you just set up, like, 2 Lugias, right? So I still think that this deck is still strong. And Lugia... Like, the nice thing about the T-Tar is you get to play more extra consistency. You get to play the Snojourner. More supporters, maybe. I like it. Yeah, Lugia's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. Also, I think Lugia has a fair matchup against Lost Tina if they're not playing Temple of Sinnoh. They're just playing Path, you're fine. If they're playing a Temple, then Lost Tina's tough. We see Turbo Lost Box here doing well with a Galarian Zapdos. Once again, people really teching for those Arc matchups, playing that one of Zapdos. We see another Turbo Lost Box in top 8. This one... Alright, this one's got to be a troll. There is 2 different Dragonites and 2 Dragonite VSTARs. This is a... Well, I guess actually this is a Dragonite VSTAR Lost Zone deck. So, what does this Dragonite do? Hyper Beam, discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. What matchup would that ever be good in? Would it... I guess Duraludon? I'm not sure what the Dragonite V is doing in the deck. That seems kind of weird, playing the Dragonite V... The V-Star I can kind of get behind, but I still don't think it's like, I guess like 250 damage. I guess it's actually, you know what? Credit where credit's due. Dragonite V-Star actually doesn't seem bad in the Lost Box mirror match. So as much as I don't think the Pogo Dragonite that was played in the deck is useful at all, I feel like at that point just play double Dragonite, double Dragon Gale Dragonite. You know what? As much as a head scratcher, it seems to play the V-Star. Dragonite V-Star actually seems reasonable because it seems like it's actually pretty good within the Lost Zone mirror match, right? So in the Lost Zone mirror, you have Dragonite V-Star, which can be very strong in the Lost Zone mirror because you can use it and not have to worry about damaging your own bench. So you have a really good way of dealing with their Raikous and Dragonites with Dragonite. It's also very tanky. 280 HP, once again, is a lot of HP to have. You're probably never using Draconic Star, but you're mainly just using it for the bulk. And I guess it helps against Lost Tina because you're forcing them to... I don't know. I don't hate it. Yeah, you know what? This probably seems good in Lost Tina mirror, in Lost Tina against Lost Tina. But it's mainly probably just there for Lost Box matchups. I actually don't hate it. That actually seems pretty good against Lost Box. So, yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It does need a lot of energy. You know what? At first, I was like, this Dragonite list kind of isn't very good. The more I look at it, though, the more I appreciate the list. I actually think this is actually a pretty good list. I think that the Pogo Dragonite, that's right there. I think you don't need this Dragonite. I think this Dragonite's bad. But I do think the Dragonite V-Star is honestly really clever because it's very helpful in the Lost Box mirror match, which is, I think, the main selling point of it. Also seems good against Arceus because against Duraludon, you have a very tanky Pokemon that can't get one-hit killed by Duraludon. I like this deck. You know what? I do like this list. I like it a lot, actually. I think Dragonite V-Star is actually reasonable. We see another Guardy here in bubbling out of top 8. We see another Lost Tina deck doing well. Yeah, Lost Tina just doing good. No surprise there. The more I think about it, I don't think Dragonite's that good against Lost Tina. Unless it plays Choice Belt. We do see Fusion Mew doing pretty good again. Fusion Mew just seems like a good deck. It depends on how much Spiritomb there is, right? We see another Guardy list here. This one, just a very straightforward Guardy list with the Skysteel Stone. I think Skysteel Stone actually has room to come back. Now that Giratina and Lugia and Arceus are very popular, there's actually a good reason to play Skysteel. We see Arctina here. Once again, very straightforward Arctina list. Which I think Arctina is probably the strongest Arc deck right now. There's a Rapid Strike deck doing well. Rapid Strike's still kind of holding on. My kind of thing with Rapid Strike is I like the deck. I think it's actually still a pretty good deck right now. The problem is, obviously, you're going to struggle against Lugia, which is popular. But my other issue with Rapid Strike is, does Rapid Strike have a good matchup against Lost Tina? And that's the thing that's going to hold me back personally from ever wanting to play Rapid Strike right now. I think the deck is still good. I think it's honestly still a reasonable play, but the thing is does it consistently beat Lost Tina? Because you're playing against a Lost Zone engine deck, but you're playing against Giratina, which is a lot different than playing against Dragonite, Raikou, and Sableye and Cram. You're playing against Giratina, which has the ability to KO a VMAX in one hit, and they also trade pretty well into you a lot of the time, especially when it has 280 HP. So I'm not sold on the matchup, especially when they have like Path 2, which can shut off Inteleon. I don't know. That's the thing that holds Rapid Strike back. It seems like a decent deck, but is it consistently going to beat Lost Tina? You know? So that's kind of my take on it. We see another Lost Box deck here doing well. Turbo Lost Box with a Bravery Charm. Bravery Charm seems pretty good in the mirror and also really good against Arceus decks. And then round out the top 16, to no one's surprise, we got ourselves Lost Tina. And that was that late night tournament. Now we can move on to the late night number 120. Now, the winner of this tournament, this was a very wacky winner. Or wacky list. We got a Lugia colorless deck playing Slaking Path. So this is a very unconventional Lugia deck. But I like it, and the more I looked at this list when I saw it winning, I was like, this is kind of crazy. I like it. So it does seem like maybe not as strong as Single Strike Lugia, but the Slaking, I think, really makes up for the lack of Tyranitar you have. So you still have the Snorlax in the deck. You still have the Therapeutic Energy. You got the Weird Ear. Drapion V in the deck, obviously. So you still have the normal stuff you'd see in like a colorless Lugia deck. But the big card in the deck that was added is the 1 of Slaking and the 2 of Path and the Double Belt. So the idea behind the Double Belt is it lets your Lugia V-Star attack with a double Turbo Energy on and lets you KO Vs in the active. So Lugia, a lot of the time, okay, so when you go first against a V-Star deck like a Arceus deck, right, or Lugia Mirror, they start Lugia, they don't put a V-Guard on. But if you attach a double turbo to your Lugia or have to play double turbo on your Lugia V-Star, you don't knock out that basic V with Lugia. And that's one thing that can be awkward, is Lugia sometimes whiffs a KO on a basic V because of a double turbo being on it. But when you have a choice belt in the deck, you can belt the Lugia and then attack with the double turbo arms, you're doing 230. The belt also enables Slaking V to do 290 damage, which is also really good numbers right now in the format. And you get to play Path. So Path Lugia does seem like a meme, obviously. It's like, why would you want to Path your own Lugia? But you got to remember, you're only trying to do your ability once in the game. And once you do the ability, you can Path all the livelong day. The downside of playing Path in your own Lugia deck, though, is you shut off your own Luminion, which can be awkward. But you do need the Path for the Slaking. I don't know if Path is better than maybe Spiritomb. Spiritomb doesn't seem as good because it is more passive, and you do have a lot of basic V abilities like Drapion, Weirder, and Luminion. Whereas if you play 2 Path, 2 Collapse, you can always Pumpkaboo or Collapse away your own Path to peak at any point in the game. So you can control that instead of playing Spiritomb, which you can't really take off the board as easily, and you lose access to Luminion, Drapion, Weirder, but you get Slaking. I do like this deck. I think Slaking Lugia is something that actually, I'm surprised took this long for people to figure out. I do like the concept of it. Slaking is a pretty good attacker. You got the double V-Guard energy, giving it some bulk. You got the 1-hit KO potential. You get to play paths. You get to be a little bit more aggressive and disruptive into other matchups, which is what I like about the Slaking. So, cool that this kind of build of Lugia won. Slaking Lugia winning is kind of sick. We got, again, Lost Tina. No surprise to anybody. Doing good. We got another Lugia deck here. This Lugia list does not, once again, play the Urshifu. It actually plays a very high count of Tyranitar, playing 3 Tyranitar, which there is debate as to why that is a thing. 3 T-Tar means that you can start with it a bit more easier. T-Tar is a pretty good starter because as long as you set up Lugia turn 2, having T-Tar in the active is ideal because then you don't have to retreat or jet energy to use the Tyranitar. So you just have a higher chance of starting with it, which is what I like. And also, Tyranitar is just really good because it's your best attacker a lot of the time is the Tyranitar, right? So makes sense to play 3. No Urshifu, so again, not respecting Dura, which you don't need to do. We haven't seen a Duraludon deck at all in this video. We got another Lost Box deck here playing a lot more Vs. You got the Dragonite, or not the Dragonite, so you got the Raikou, the Zapdos, the Drapion, and a Starmie V. Starmie V does 50 damage for each energy on all your opponent's Pokemon, so Starmie V is pretty helpful against Lost Box, or against Arceus decks. And it's good against Lugia too in some scenarios. So, pretty good card for sure. We got another Lost Zone Tina deck doing well. Lost Tina. 2 Lost Tina. 3 Lost Tina in top 8. Look at that. The deck just, hey man, it seems good, man. Seems good. 3 in top 8 definitely seems good. Then we got Xianpao here in top 8 with the Arceus and a Spiritomb. I like the idea of a Spiritomb in a Xianpao deck. I don't hate it. But yeah, Arc, Xianpao. Seems good. Again, Arc does enable more plays. Well, actually, I say that. This build does not play the canceling Cologne. So it's playing the Arceus without the Cologne. That's interesting. So this build maybe... Okay, yeah, I lied. There's no Cologne in the deck. I mean, if you're going to play Arceus, at least play a Cologne, right? You can go, like, boss canceling Cologne. That's interesting. Okay, that's an interesting list. It got top 8, so there you go. Then we see Lost Tina again in top 8. That's crazy, dude. Half of the top 8 was Lost Tina. Holy moly, bro. That's absurd. Half of the top 8 was Lost Tina. That's actually pretty crazy. That's nuts. Outside the top 8, we got a Regieleki Miraidon deck. Kind of a hit or miss deck, I feel like, in terms of what it does. The Regieleki does still seem good. Miraidon still being able to ramp up 1-hit KOs on like Arceuses and stuff is good, and other V-Stars. I don't hate this list, honestly. I think Regieleki is still like a reasonable card to play. The downside of Regieleki is you just have like a bare VMAX in play that can be easy to one-shot, especially for Giratina. But at the same time, you're just 1-hit killing everything and very easily with Miraidon, thanks to Regieleki boosting your damage output. So there you go. And then we got another Lost Tina deck here in 10th place. Disgusting. We got Xianpao doing pretty good again, too. This one does play the double Arceus, but not playing any canceling Cologne. So that's very interesting. A Defiance Band in the deck. Oh, that's Shintaro. What the heck? That was Shintaro. Yo, Shintaro? All right. Now we got to look at the list again. It was Shintaro. Well, the Defiance Band is like the only spicy thing in the deck, and the double Arceus, I guess, is kind of spicy. Interesting. Only playing 2 Baxcaliburs, too. And no Super Rod. I mean, Shintaro's a good player. We got yet another Lost Tina deck here. Obviously doing pretty good because Lost Tina seems to be an insane deck. We have another Xianpao deck. This one does play the Palkia, but also still plays the Cologne Boss and a Pokestop, which I guess isn't hard to pull off when you have like Luminion and stuff. We got an Arc Tina doing pretty good. The Arc Tina's pretty respectable. Again, I think in my opinion it's the best Arceus deck right now because I think it has the best handle on most matchups. We see another Fusion Mew deck doing pretty good, and that was that top 16. We can look at an Arc. Oh no, Arc Umbreon was top 16. So we got another Arc Umbreon. This is very similar to the Lucario build, except instead of playing Lucario, this deck plays Aerodactyl V-Star. So Aerodactyl V-Star, I don't know if it is as good as Lucario. The downside of Aerodactyl, it has less HP, and it also mills the top 3 cards of your deck, which isn't terrible a lot of the time. Sometimes you can even like mill unplayable cards into an Iono so that you can get Iono into playable cards. But I feel like Aerodactyl might be a worse Lucario, but there is upsides. I guess Aerodactyl V can be pretty good to discard energy in some weird scenarios. So, yeah, I don't know. I still kind of like Lucario over Aerodactyl, but I think Aerodactyl isn't a terrible option either. Again, no V-Guard in this deck is kind of sketchy because without V-Guard, I feel like this is a little bit more prone to losing to, like, Lost Tina, right? So, I still think you want to play that in the deck, right? You want to play the thing. I guess we can look at one Arc Duralist. There's one Arc Duralist here outside of top 16. Again, Arc Dura, the problem with the deck is that I think it does struggle a lot against Lost Tina and Arc Tina even, but I still think the deck is honestly still a reasonable play right now. Duraludon is still just a very strong Pokemon that, even though it's not as good as it used to be, it's still like a good card in the meta because it's still very tanky, can be awkward to play against, and it can still do relevant damage. So we're kind of seeing the downfall of the Arc Dura deck in general, but we are seeing the rise of Tina, which is what's going to eventually throw off. And the thing with Tina that makes it so good is that Lost Tina doesn't have a good counter right now. There doesn't seem to be a deck in the format that just straight up beats Lost Tina super easily. It's not like Arc Dura has a very good matchup against Lugia, or Arc Dura has a really good matchup against Umbreon, or, you know, something like Darkrai V-Star is a really good matchup against Mew. There's no, like, deck out there that just has, like, a really good matchup against Lost Tina. Lost Tina is just a very good deck that takes 50-50s against anything. It seems like just a good deck all around that doesn't have any bad matchups. That's the thing that makes it kind of crazy, right? I don't think Lost Tina has a single bad matchup, and that's probably why it's dominating. So yeah, really interesting results here of the tournament. I think the big kind of takeaway was this really cool Lugia Slaking deck winning this late night. And this late night did have over 300 players, so it's a pretty big win for sure. So seeing the Slaking Lugia deck winning is pretty exciting, and I'm definitely happy to see a cool Slaking deck take down the tournament. But there you have it. That is it for the results. Let me know what you think of the results down below. What do you think about Lost Tina? Do you think Lost Tina is really that good right now? Do you think it warrants all these insane placements in these online tourneys and League Cups? Or do you think Lost Tina isn't that good? I would love to hear it down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another video. Bye-bye.